Welcome, everybody, to The Art of It All. I am Stephen Lynerd. This is episode 3. My special guest today is Michael Giuliani. Great to have you here. Thanks for being here. Yeah. We've known each other for, oh man, what was it?
12? 10?
Really?
12? I don't know.
Oh man.
Long time.
40's coming up and I'm not looking forward to
the drive to Indiana and the stop at Chipotle. That's
right, the stop at Chipotle. So we met each other on their way to Indiana to work together and tour together with Tim Zimmerman and the King's Brass. Mm-hmm. 1 year for you, 2 years for you? 1 year for you.
Yeah.
And
20 for you.
Something like that. It's amazing. But you are a musical compadre, a friend, church music director, avid performer. You've toured, you've run a music school, you've accompanied every choir in the western suburbs. We'll get into that, but tell us a little about where you grew up. Where'd you grow up?
Yeah, well, I was born in Southern California, LA area. Wow. And then when I was 9, moved to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan.
So they're very similar.
Very
places.
Similar. Both have huge mosquitoes and, I always joke that Michigan state bird is the mosquito. So
it is. I'm convinced. I am convinced.
So yeah, huge culture shock, but great places. Both in their own right. So I grew up there, and then moved to Chicago for school for undergrad.
And that was where?
North Park University.
Okay.
So bachelor's in music there and piano.
Performance.
Yes.
Okay.
And then to Concordia University for my master's in church music.
Okay.
So,
what was the initial plan as a performance major? What was when you were telling people, "This is what I want to do"? Like, yeah. What happened? What was the conversation?
Well, so I was a horrible high school student. Really bad.
Me too. I was terrible. I was worthless.
Yeah. So I was actually going to join the Air Force Band. I was going to enlist. Really? Yeah. And my piano teacher at the time, who's also my mentor, you've met Frances.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. She said, "No way. You're not doing that."
Okay.
So through a series of events, ended up at North Park University, which is the denominational school of the church I was going to, the Evangelical Covenant Church.
Got it.
And so I actually went in with a double major in mind, music ed and piano, thinking, you may or may not make it as a performance major or as a performer, but you can always fall back on music ed. So that lasted about 2 weeks. And when I realized that, the music ed people end up taking, a year more of courses than everybody else, I said,
you have to learn how to play the French horn too.
Yeah, there's that.
And the bassoon.
Yeah. Okay. So ended up just sticking with piano, and it's been enjoyable.
You were arguably, and I've told several people this, arguably one of the best sight readers I have ever encountered. And that as I think has served you well. And, the ability to sight read. Is that something that was taught? Did you learn that in lessons, or is that something that you have always been able to just sit at a piano, see notes, and immediately translate that?
Well, so the thing about piano for me is I've never been pushed to practice. I've always loved it. So even to this day, people say, "Oh, what do you do for a living?" And I say I'm a musician, and I never feel like I'm working. It's always it's just great.
Are you in a band?
Yeah.
I never tell people at the barber that I'm a musician. You in a band? No, it's complicated.
Usually I tell people, I delay this, but they find out I work for a church, and they're like, "You work for a church?" So, sight reading has always just come naturally.
Okay.
I've always been a good reader. Only in music, not,
yeah, man.
Not English.
Man, it's the worst SAT scores ever.
Amen. So, and it's weird. I don't actually read the notes. I have to have the music in front of me to do it. But I'm never actually reading the notes. It's like this, just scanning across the music. It's really weird. Maybe
it's almost like I heard one person once explain it to me as almost like reading Braille. Like you're sort of you're more scanning and taking things in, I don't know if that's horribly offensive or horribly inaccurate, but it was a musician who also is a great sight reader who just said they don't see necessarily individual notes. They're sort of rubbing their hand over it and internalizing it.
Exactly.
Blows my mind. I'm a memorizer, so for me, sight reading is a challenge.
And that is extremely difficult for me to memorize. Okay. In fact, I refuse to do it.
Wow.
So, incredible. Even in undergrad, I remember my teacher saying, "You got to pay your dues." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm not doing that."
Wow.
So, and she actually doesn't memorize either anymore. But, for me, I don't see a point in memorizing. A lot of people say it frees them up for expression, but for me, I'm just thinking of where's my security blanket the entire time.
Sure.
So I actually am a more expressive player when I have music in front of me.
Interesting.
And it's never something that distracts me.
If you play a piece of music enough over and over again, you still have the music. Are you transitioning more to looking at the keys? If you're beginning to internalize things, do you get out of the music or do you still watch it go by?
Maybe internalizing, but if you were to take the music away, I would start having severe memory slips.
Would you?
Yeah, it's really interesting.
Hey, it's fine.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's fine.
I think the analogy of a security blanket is... it's my teddy bear.
No, absolutely. Yeah, no. I'm scared of exposed musical spaces.
Yeah.
Okay, so performance. Do you want to tour? Do you want to...
I actually didn't know... I should back that up. I have been a church musician since I was 12. So I started playing piano when I was 9. Oh. And when I was 12, I started accompanying our church's children's choir. Okay. Looked up into the balcony and saw the organ and said, I really want to play that.
Okay.
Went and played around on that, and grew up in a Catholic church, so I was playing for masses.
Okay.
And I've just always loved being in the church. So, and even going into college, I guess I never thought, I'm going to be a professional church musician.
Sure.
But it just sort of happened that way. Even going into college, I expected to have a church job on the side while I was in school. It just was never an option not to have one.
Right.
So,
interesting. So, church music coinciding with performing classical music. We're talking different genres here. Have you landed on a genre or an avenue of piano that you prefer?
Well, I like to transcribe Kenny G for piano.
Boy, it's been really fun. This wraps up the interview, and we don't endorse the music of...
Yes. Hope he's not watching.
Dunkin' Donuts and Kenny G. So far, this is off to a great start.
Right. They actually have surprisingly good coffee.
Wow. 3 people just stopped watching.
So let's see. What was your question?
Is there an avenue of...
An avenue of music, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a classical performer.
Okay.
That's really my thing. But while I'm primarily a pianist, I actually don't like to play solo at all.
Okay.
I'm more of a collaborative player.
Okay.
So I always want to be making music with somebody else. So my work now with piano is basically as a collaborator.
Okay.
So, and mainly in the vocal and choral areas. So I do some instrumental stuff as well, but I play for 3 choirs in the area and vocal studios throughout the years.
That's a whole skill set that I don't think the world fully understands or appreciates. I think when you are a rehearsal pianist and a performance pianist for choirs, that's a whole set of skills that, it's intuition, right? It's intuition, it's anticipating. In rehearsal, rehearsal, you are a machine.
Yeah.
You have to be watching and anticipating when a conductor is going to need notes, when parts are going to be needed versus an accompaniment, or both for that matter. And
you never... especially as a choral accompanist, you want to be invisible, but at the same time you want to make sure the conductor is supported. So you have to anticipate what measure they're going to, what notes they're going to want to hear. You're listening to the choir. You know they're going to go to the tenors.
right. Those tenors. And you're playing off the same octavo little bit of music that everyone else is. I mean, you're still wrestling with some of the practical functions. It's not like you have always 8.5 by 11 sheets of music all the time. Sometimes you do, but sometimes you're playing off the same little bits. And so I think it's remarkable. I tip my hat. I mean, to me, rehearsal accompanists are sort of like janitors. You really want them on your side, like, especially in a church. Like, make friends with the janitor, make friends with the accompanist, because man, you just never know when you're going to need them, and you want them to be shining. So, what groups are you with now? Where are you accompanying?
So I'm with St. Charles Singers out this way in St. Charles. Yep. Really great group. So Sunday night rehearsals, and it's like. I leave church in the morning, I have the afternoon, and then I go to St. Charles Singers rehearsal. And I don't feel like I'm working. It's just listening to beautiful choral music, awesome. Amazing singers. Jeff Hunt's their director, amazing guy, just really great guy, great musician. So then I accompany the girls' choirs at Young Naperville Singers, which is great. We just got back from Europe.
Wow.
And really great. What's great about that group, they're fantastic musicians, but there's really this kind of family feel to them. Really a great group of kids, and Angie Johnson's the director of that. She's great as well.
How long were you in Europe?
I started with them, just completed my first full season. I was doing some sub work the year before.
Okay.
And this is my third year with St. Charles Singers. And then I'm actually starting this fall with North Central College choirs, so that'll be fun as well.
Wow, they have a beautiful room.
Wentz,
that is, what is it? Nearly acoustically perfect. I think.
Is. I wish it were a little bigger, but it's a great room.
Write a letter. See if they'll change it. See if they'll just knock a wall down. Or
apparently there was supposed to be some additions, but I think they ran out of money. Like most people building things.
It tends to happen.
It tends to happen.
And you are serving at Bethany Lutheran?
I am.
In Naperville.
So the great thing about being a church musician is it frees me up. It's not a 9-to-5 job.
Right.
Sometimes it's a
9-to-9 job.
Yeah, exactly. But overall there's a lot of flexibility, and not all the work needs to be done in the office, which is really great. So I'm freed up to do accompanying and whatnot. Okay. Of course, it's mainly at night. But, so I'm at Bethany Lutheran. I've been there. This is going on my 5th year. Well, so Agnes and I have been married 8 years now. So, yeah.
How about that?
Isn't that crazy? We have a 7-year-old son. I know.
That's remarkable.
Yeah, I was picking him up yesterday, and I thought,
you're 7.
Yeah, this is not going to happen much longer. He's huge. He's going to be like 6'4". The kid's massive.
That's incredible.
So, yeah.
So, your title is Cantor. What does that involve?
That'll be a good...
What is a cantor?
Explanation. So, I'm Lutheran.
Yep.
And converted to Lutheranism. So Lutherans are the people that you've never heard about because they don't want to be found.
Wow.
It's really unfortunate. Great theology and this kind of bunker mentality. I don't understand it.
They're preppers. They're end times preppers.
Just don't get it.
Well,
kind of refuse to engage with the world around them.
Sure.
And I don't know. Anyway, was convinced of Lutheran theology, became Lutheran, found the job at Bethany, and wanted to go back to school for grad work. So relocated to Chicago, and the word cantor, the term cantor, usually when you say that, they think Catholic Church cantor up there leading the psalm or something.
Right, that's my...
Right. Well, the word cantor actually means singer, so you are the lead singer. Okay. But in the Lutheran tradition, that's rarely somebody who's leading as a solo singer.
Okay.
It usually means you are leading from the organ, so you're leading the congregational song from the organ.
Okay.
Or you're leading a choir or something like that. So, in effect, it's music director.
Sure.
But I love the term. I wish more churches would use it because it aptly describes what your function is, right?
Sure.
You're leading the church's song, which is what we do, right?
Yeah.
Music director is more of the secular term, which has been imported.
Yep.
But, yeah.
Okay. And you're planning now, Lutherans tend to follow, if I understand this correctly, you follow certain hymns throughout the year, right? Or at least topically, or...
So we're a liturgical church.
Okay.
So we follow the lectionary, which, our lectionary, I'm in the LCMS, so our lectionary is, that's Lutheran Church Missouri Synod. Our lectionary is close to the Revised Common Lectionary, which most Christians around the world are using.
Okay.
It's a little bit different, but for the most part, it's the same. So we follow the seasons of the church year, and of course there are topical hymns for that, or seasonal hymns rather, but just like any other church, they would sing Christmas tunes at Christmas and whatever.
Okay.
But our lectionary has 4 pericopes every Sunday. So one from the Old Testament, a psalm, usually an epistle, and the gospel.
Okay.
So in planning for that, we're looking at those. We're trying to find a common theme, which is usually between the Old Testament and the gospel, or kind of paired. That's not always the case. And then we're choosing hymns that try to bring out that common theme.
Okay.
Are you? But it's great to have the lectionary because now you can be planning out a year in advance. Not
right. That's always my question. How far out are you planning typically?
A week.
Awesome.
Well, no. So the thing is that I'm in a collaborative environment, so the pastors don't usually know what they're going to focus on until that week.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So we're meeting like on Tuesday and kind of looking at the hymns that I've chosen. Sometimes I'm trying to get an idea on like Saturday, Sunday, where they're going to go. They may or may not know. Sometimes,
like the day before?
No. Like
the week before. Okay.
But sometimes they don't know until Friday when they're writing a sermon.
Wow.
Where they're going to go with it. So usually default is go with the gospel.
It's hard to go wrong.
Yeah, it's hard to go wrong with that.
Yeah, you can always verbally tie whatever you're talking about.
But it's kind of frustrating when you plan all the hymns around the gospel and then they preach on the Old Testament, and it's like, come on.
I remember years ago I didn't quite get the message in time, and so I planned a song called "Morning into Dancing" for the closing song, and we're listening to the sermon. And it starts going kind of dark, like super dark. Like Morning into Dancing would be inappropriate because it's almost going to be a 2-part message. Like we're going to talk about some really dark stuff. Next week we'll talk about really good stuff.
I'll leave you here to ponder that.
So I grabbed a paper towel and I sketched out words and chords, took a picture with my phone, and texted it to all of my musicians.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, hey, in 5 minutes, we're changing directions. And I sent a text to the person running the slides. I was like, go find this song. And because we cannot sing this next song. So I understand. It can be frustrating to not know where you're going.
Thankfully, that's not always the case. Usually I'm planning 12 weeks out. That's kind of how I set things, but very loosely planning. Of course, anything that I'm working with on an ensemble, or did I say that right? It's early in the morning.
It is early in the morning.
I'm planning out, at least 12 weeks is my minimum for that, because I need to, how rehearsals are. People are coming and going, and if you want to have them all learn the piece, you better be working way ahead. So at a minimum, I'm working 12 weeks with them, but generally I have the entire year planned of anthems and whatnot, or an idea at least of what I want to do, and I can adjust depending on what their technical skill is throughout the year. Or
that brings up an interesting question, an interesting point. If you mentioned if you want them to learn a piece, I think as a cantor or music director, we always ride that balance. We want to present something really good.
Yeah.
but we also have to give the people that are working with us every opportunity to succeed.
Yeah.
Some churches have professional level choirs at their disposal that will just basically read anything you put in front of them. But 95 more percent of us don't. We have lay people. We have a mixture of, maybe we have a couple of pro singers, but it's largely, I used to sing in high school, or I used to sing in, you audition people, I believe, for your choir, do you, or no?
I don't audition my adult choir. I do audition my kids' choir.
Okay. Yeah. But so you have different skill levels.
Yeah.
And so in choosing music, you're probably thoughtful of, okay, maybe I want to stretch them. But how are you choosing, how are you gauging your choir?
Yeah,
what's your process for gauging a skill level?
That's interesting. So I'm a firm believer that we should be presenting something with excellence. And I don't think that is really, I guess you could argue if that's subjective or not, but I don't buy this whole, I'm just going to make a song for the Lord kind of thing. No, we want to present our best to the Lord. So
we're called to.
Right. So but that doesn't necessarily mean you're singing Palestrina. Would love to.
I would love to.
But, most of us are in churches that either don't have the funds to hire pro singers or that are against that notion in general. They, we use who we have. We're not going to spend money on that. So the guy down the street from me has like 20 paid singers. So
what church is that?
Saints Peter and Paul.
Oh yeah, yeah.
They have a great music program. I don't think it's 20 singers, but they have quite a few.
Yeah.
So he does great stuff over there. But so I'm choosing things that I know we can sing well. Mm-hmm. It might not be the most difficult thing. And then there are some things that maybe are more difficult, but they've been singing for years, so we can pull it out and polish it. And I've got a great group of singers. We've been losing numbers over the past few years, people moving away and whatnot, but we still have a really strong core that do really, they always surprise me. So
how many do you have on average?
Well, so I think we have close to 20 on average.
That's great.
But sometimes that's down to 13, sometimes it's up to 24, 25.
Do you ever just do like a women's choir or a men's choir? Okay.
Yeah, I try to get them singing every week. Or at least a choir singing every week.
So you're rehearsing every week?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we do a 2-hour rehearsal every week. It's crazy. The reason we do that is because during Advent and Lent, we have an evening service on Wednesday, so we can rehearse for like half an hour. So we kind of load up in the fall and before Lent after Christmas, and then have kind of short rehearsals just to polish things.
That is a commitment.
Season. It's crazy, yeah. And these are people who are working, most of Naperville is working downtown Chicago. They get back at 6:30 on the train. They're tired. They haven't seen their families, and they come to choir rehearsal.
Did you implement that when you came, or is that something after year one you kind of realized, you know what, we need to adjust this? Or was that in place when you got there?
No, I implemented that. They were doing a Thursday night rehearsal when I got there, and I think it was an hour and a half. Maybe it was an hour. I know I raised it. I either raised it to an hour and a half at one point, or we just kept it along. I know it was that for a few years.
Or just slowly not dismiss them, like,
and it was like 1:32, 1:33.
Before you know it, they've been there 2 hours and they have no idea.
They have no idea. We just have a lot of fun. But I didn't like the idea of them being out on Wednesday nights for Lenten and Advent services and then having to come out on Thursday. So we tried, I think, I can never figure out if this is like in my head or if we actually did it, because I have a horrible memory.
Okay.
So either we tried like Thursdays and then during Advent and Lent we went to Wednesdays or what, but it's just easier for them to come on one night. So we stuck with Wednesdays, and I realized that, if we're going to actually sing during Advent and Lent, we have to learn this music ahead of time, because there's no way we can learn it in the half hour we have.
When will those when will you sing have your first Advent rehearsal?
So I will usually start slowly working on that as soon as we start the season.
Okay.
We always do a Bach cantata the first Wednesday in Advent. It's kind of the Bach Cantata Wednesday.
He wrote a couple.
Yeah.
So you have a couple to choose from.
And it's really nice. We do an evening prayer service, and we actually put the cantata throughout the service.
Love that idea.
It's part of worship. It's not a performance.
Plus, it gives a non-performance choir a break and ability to... I was at a church visiting in New York City, and they interspersed a Beethoven violin sonata throughout the service.
Oh,
and
cool.
I thought to myself, what a smart thing.
Yeah.
Rather than present a lump, because, I mean, this is heavy music.
Yeah.
Are you renting this stuff or buying it?
We're buying it. So we start working on that stuff right away, and I have my kids sing with us on that too. Awesome. So we start them right away.
Kids' choirs are kind of like cellos. There's just instant tenure. You start using a cello, and people just think everything you do is magic.
Yeah.
Kids' choirs the same way.
And the great thing about kids is you can teach them anything. When I got here, I intentionally said I don't want to do the no disrespect to anybody who does this, but the kids choir who gets up in front of the church and they're swinging back and forth and screaming and whatever. I mean, I just didn't want to do that. That's not my thing. So I wanted the King's College, boys choir thing.
Wow.
Which is completely foreign to the Lutheran Church.
And there are processes to that. I mean, it's not just, this is what we sing. Like, there's a formality to everything associated with that group.
Right, yeah. Actually, the Lutheran Church, like Bach's church in Leipzig, St. Thomas Kirche, has one of those choirs. So that's kind of cool. So we have a tradition of it, but not anymore.
Germans love procedures. They love the procedures.
So I do a 2-hour rehearsal with them every week. We stand the entire time. It's a huge amount of discipline. I have them sight singing, and that's my first goal with them, is to get them sight singing as soon as possible, so we can be learning, advanced repertoire. And I'm not, just teaching them by rote, banging out notes. And this year I'm actually doing a small group rehearsal in addition to that 2-hour rehearsal. So I'm taking 4 or 5 of them throughout the week and rehearsing for just half an hour.
Like barbershop quartet stuff?
Barbershop quartet. Just so I get a chance to hear them individually. Because when you have 25, 30 kids, it's impossible to address everything.
Are you at the piano accompanying and conducting?
Yeah, so I try to have them sing unaccompanied as much as possible. Just to solidify those pitches. I don't want them relying on the piano. So piano's in the middle, and then we have choir desks, which are awesome. And they're all surrounding, and
Are you the accompanist and conductor for the adult choir as well, or do you have an accompanist?
So I did have an accompanist. This year I'll be accompanying.
Okay.
And directing. So,
okay.
Yeah. And actually, I'm a bit of a control freak. So
that's a good place for you.
That's a good place
for me. That's a good place for you.
Yeah.
Andre Previn used to, when he would play concerti with the Chicago Symphony, he would also conduct. I think it was Andre Previn.
Daniel Barenboim.
You're right, Daniel. Yeah. Thank you, Daniel Barenboim. Sometimes it got weird. Like, just
he's a control freak too.
He is a control freak, yeah. But just like, it's like, dude. Okay, so that's a good place for you. Are you? So. Sidebar to our sidebar to our sidebar.
I don't even know where we are now.
I know we're somewhere between Aurora and Naperville. As an accompanist, when you are simply an accompanist, do you turn off the conducting role?
Oh yeah, I like roles. I could have been German.
You really could have. You love these procedures.
I'm so OCD and detail.
Okay, so when you sit down with the St. Charles Singers, with in all the choirs you're doing, you just go into that mode.
Yeah, and I always tell those conductors that accompanying throughout the week is my favorite place to be because I don't have to make any decisions.
Okay.
I just like being told what to do.
Okay, that's awesome.
So, it'd be highly inappropriate for me to tell the conductor what to do.
Yeah.
I do have to say that everybody I've worked with has been highly collaborative, so they usually ask me for my opinion on something, which I'm happy to offer.
Sure.
But... yeah, I want to always support them in their role. So I want to make their job easy. I never want them to have to think, oh my gosh, can you hurry up and get to those notes? Or, oh, this guy's challenging me, or whatever it is. That's not where I want to be.
Yeah. Good. All right, so last time I talked to you, you're also running a sort of a music school. You still running a music school?
I am running a music school.
And what is that called?
It's called the Bach Academy because we're Lutheran. So
you are, and I still have my key fob. By the way, I really should return that.
Yeah, well, the woman who issued those just retired, so
I'm off the hook.
You're off the hook.
I still have it though. It's in a Ziploc bag.
Yeah, you need to give that back.
I will give that back. It's probably $400 fob. Okay, so the Bach Academy. Talk about that.
Yeah, so I've always loved the idea of using music to reach out into the community. Lutherans have this great theology of serving your neighbor.
Okay.
We're really big on that. So I see, there are many ways to do that, but as a musician, in my role, I'm obviously using music as that tool.
Okay.
So when I got to Bethany, I started work on developing a community music school, and a year later we launched it 2016. And now we have 600-700 students. So we have a variety of programs. We have an early childhood music program. We have a Naperville Youth Orchestra, Naperville Youth Symphony Orchestra. I have to get that right.
Pardon you.
Pardon me. And Kim Richter is probably going to be watching this.
We'll make sure it's correct.
Right. We have various music lesson faculty. Okay. We have one of the only pre-collegiate viola da gamba consorts in the country.
Of course you do.
Of course you do.
Of course you do.
Yeah. And what else
did you get those on Amazon, or how'd you people bring their own, or how's that work?
It's like at McDonald's, the Happy Meal. You just
get a viola da gamba, get a cheeseburger.
So, right. Oh. Exactly. So that's been going really well.
And all that, where does all of this take place?
It takes place at Bethany. So it's Bethany's musical outreach to the community. And I draw a very strong distinction between evangelism and outreach. Sometimes those two get
a little
skewed, yeah. So this is not evangelism. We're not going out and proclaiming the gospel.
Yep.
But we are reaching out to people to serve them. Right? And we hope that that's a means of bringing people into the church, but it's not the ultimate goal. So
I think churches, capital C church, needs as much help as it can get in the community by de-weirding people's views of the church. I mean, a lot of people are seeing church as just, they're crazy. They're crazy. They only have one political bent. They're weird. They're dark, closed places. We have abuse. We have really dark, terrible things happening, and unfortunately, those are the churches that get the press. Those are the churches that get the attention. I think the extremes of all kinds of groups are the ones that are getting the attention, the oppressed. But the church is really getting hit hard with that. And so I think what you're doing is really smart. Let's serve, and we're not trying to rope you in. We're trying to serve you.
Switch kind of thing.
No, and we're trying to genuinely serve you. I think the word authentic also gets overused, but let's be authentic in our approach to life and come alongside you, teach you some valuable skills. And, by the way, it's at this church.
Yeah, and I'd love to see these kids use those skills in church.
Absolutely.
That'd be great. Absolutely. And the church, throughout history has been that place for musical development and music education, and, the art of music has really been developed in the church, not exclusively, but so that's a great thing for the modern church to take part in as well, I think. And so I see that also as not just a bridge to the community in general, but, artists are their own little segment, people who are drawn to the art. So this is really a bridge to them as well, which I think is important.
Absolutely. So you have gone a lot of routes in your musical life thus far.
Yeah.
More than a lot of people I know. You have a lot of cookie jars going right now.
Yeah.
With various sizes of lids. So think about.
Was that a fat joke?
No, I promise. Turn the Duncan logo around. To date, let's break it up into segments. As a collaborative pianist, if you had only been allowed to perform one concert or one piece thus far, what would it have been?
Oh man.
And you're not. This is not a hurt someone else's feelings by leaving them out kind of a thing.
Yeah, I love everything that I'm doing.
Yeah,
or I wouldn't do it.
Right.
Especially with accompanying, because it's not my primary source of income.
Correct.
I do it because I enjoy it. So I would just walk away if it sucked. But any of my work with the St. Charles Singers is like one of the most enjoyable things in my life. Okay. It's really just such a blessing to do.
Okay.
Just personally, to me, it's just really therapeutic. Right now, we're going through a Mozart journey. They're recording all of Mozart's sacred choral works.
That'll take like an afternoon.
Yeah, a few hours. They're in year... Goodness, if Jeff sees this, he's going to kill me for not knowing. I think it's like year 13. And they only have a few years left.
Before what?
Before...
You're going to shut the thing down? Or what?
Before the journey, it's called the Mozart Journey, before that's over.
That's a massive project.
It's massive, and they do a really good job. So
it's a lot of notes, isn't it, for you?
Well, actually, only in rehearsal. Okay. I have to learn the orchestral reductions, which are insane, because whoever edits those, they're they're not pianists.
No,
they're
and they're dead now, so you can't seek them out.
They're like, let's just throw every note in there.
Seriously, it's bananas.
So that's a chore, trying to figure out what you're going to play, what you're going to leave out. And oftentimes that's happening on the spot. Somebody gives you an orchestral reduction, you just have to figure it out. Thankfully, I have this music ahead of time, so...
are you? And just real quick, are you paper music, or are you on iPad, or what are you doing?
Well, so I usually use an iPad, only because I don't want to carry a bunch of books around with me.
Bluetooth page turner, or are you hitting the screen?
Bluetooth page turner,
like an air turn kind of a thing. Or
yeah, exactly.
Cool. All right.
I do use paper as well. My rule is if the tickets cost over $45, I'm using the paper.
Wow, I like that.
Just in case.
Just in case. Amazing.
Something about St. Charles Singers.
So I was asking you if you're a specific piece of music or a specific concert today.
And the notes thing. So during the concerts, actually, I'm just playing continuo organ. So I just have like bum.
Got it.
Bum bum, which is great because I'm just like basking in the music that's.
Have you ever just deviated for fun and added things,
like some little jazz thing?
Not necessarily, but like on some of the continuo. Have you ever? And I'm not going to say improved upon. Have you ever just added something and not told anybody?
Yeah, well, that's kind of expected in continuo work. That there's a certain amount of improv. They're putting in the bare minimum. Yeah. And you can ornament that and add other things, but
nothing inappropriate. You've never
nothing inappropriate. No, not on purpose.
Right.
Although, yeah, I'm sure there have been many things.
Oh yeah, I played Pink Floyd for communion last week, and no one knew. So I mean, there's just certain things you can just. Yeah.
I did the Little Mermaid once.
Good for
back
you.
In my day, I would be totally upset if I did that, or somebody did that now.
Yeah,
but it was so funny. I forget what song it was. It's some like calypso sounding thing. Yeah. This is at Palos Heights.
Okay. Oh
right.
Yeah.
So I started playing Little Mermaid during the little band break, and Under the Sea.
Okay.
And one of the moms came up to me afterwards and said, "My daughter said that you were playing Under the Sea. Is that true?" I was like, well, a lot of music sounds similar in its chord progression.
Bach copied himself over and over again. Things sound... Yeah. I years ago, we had a guest preacher who referenced a scene out of Lord of the Rings in his sermon. And for communion, for the bread, I played Annie Lennox Into the West, the closing credits. But I played it very quiet. I mean, I didn't do it overtly, but it was just like, it was meditative. Nobody had any idea except him. He just sort of looked up, like holding his bread, just looked up and just gave me this big smile. Like, I know what you're doing now, and I'm not going to tell anybody. But so the stuff with the Mozart project is
that's
really...
been. I mean, anything with St. Charles Singers, it's really hard to choose. They just do so much great music, and that experience for me is just amazing to be a part of.
Good. So. All right, as a conductor.
As a conductor, so...
is there something that stands out to date?
Yeah, my work now is mainly in church, so, occasionally there are those moments. Being able to do Bach cantatas in our services is really neat.
Yeah.
I was a conductor of the Charleston Symphony Spiritual Ensemble when I was in South Carolina, cool. And that was really neat. We did a concert of the music of Nathaniel Dett, African-American composer. That was a great experience. His music is very rich, almost like this Rachmaninoff Vespers quality.
Yeah.
It's really neat. So
I've heard some of his stuff. It's brilliant.
Yeah, and that concert was particularly meaningful. We did it at Citadel Baptist Church in Charleston.
I know that church.
Yeah, which until like 1979 wouldn't let black people in. Yeah, and so we did a concert all African American. Or
how powerful is that? That stuff you can't script that.
Yeah, it was really cool. So, and it was a really neat experience as well because I was the white conductor with a primarily black group.
Sure.
And they accepted me for that. So I always felt very uncomfortable because I'm like, there's, should I be doing this?
Right.
But they were very accepting and welcoming, so.
Wow.
They did make fun of me when I ate mashed potatoes at our Thanksgiving feast and not sweet potatoes, but...
They probably served them for you.
Yeah. They were like, you're from the North, aren't you?
You're from the North. What a disappointment. What's next? What's on the horizon? I mean, how do you keep... You obviously couldn't possibly be bored.
Well, I'm looking forward to retiring now.
Next week.
No, like I said earlier, my job is... it's not work for me. It's just great. It's a lot of fun to do. And I have my hands, like you said, in so many cookie jars. I'm allowed to... my job gives me the opportunity to be involved in many different things.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of like ADD like that. I need to be doing something different. You're kind of like that.
I am.
Yeah.
But this is about you.
So, and I'm a workaholic, so I don't mind working, 80, 90 hours a week. I just, when I get home from the office at church, I don't mind sitting on my chair and doing something more planning or whatever. I just enjoy it. So, what's next? So, I'm accompanying, I'm doing the church thing, running the music school, and I don't know what's next.
Wow.
Just keep doing what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying, for the first time in my life, I'm in a place where I feel like this is where I'm supposed to be.
Good.
I always told my wife when we were in South Carolina that I couldn't die there. I would not be at rest.
I won't die in South Carolina.
So the Midwest is home. I love being in Naperville. We live in Plainfield, which is really great community.
Took you, 4 days by horseback to get here this morning?
Exactly.
It's 59, pretty much the whole way, probably.
Yeah, up to Gulf Road and over.
Yeah,
so just enjoying it. Our kids are getting a little bit older. They're 7, 6, and 3 now. Isn't that crazy? I don't know how that happened. So, and so Lucian's autistic, and we're going to be homeschooling him this year.
Okay.
And so that we're trying to. We have amazing support for him. We have a special ed tutor coming in to work with him every day, so we can still be in that role of parent and not teacher, which for him, having that structure and separation and authority is really important.
Yep.
And we have an ABA therapist, we have a physical therapist, occupational speech, bringing in a music therapist. He loves music and art. He keeps drawing on my walls.
Awesome.
And then he points to it. He loves drawing T's. And it kind of looks like Captain Hook. And you'll look at him and you'll be like, Lucian. And he goes, T.
Awesome.
And then he gives you this big smile and comes to you with open arms. Like, how can you be mad at this?
No,
kid?
you can't. No.
So.
You now know just to paint your walls with, like, chalkboard or, just put white wallpaper up and tear it down.
Right.
White wallpaper and tear it down. I had a friend whose son would draw on the walls, but he became so gifted. So what he did was he got big picture frames with just white paper and would hang them at the level, and that is where he could draw, and then he was suddenly making framed masterpieces. And
my goodness!
The next week or the next day, or whatever, he would just
on eBay.
well, yeah, but he would also just then replace the paper. Now you have a blank canvas to start, cool. And like you can draw on the walls, but in this framed thing, it's like what a unique thing. Would you ever go back to school?
Well, so I started a PhD.
You didn't mention that in What's Next. Wow.
But so I started a PhD in Christian worship. I'm taking a little hiatus from that just because. So I did a year, really great experience, but I'm doing so much right now.
You are doing, and where is that PhD?
So I'm doing it at Southwestern Baptist.
Cool.
Scott Daniels, my advisor, really great guy,
yep.
And really, I'm the only Lutheran in the midst of a bunch of Southern Baptists, which is really great. So the way the program works is I video conference in to a specific day and time, a physical class happening, so I can interact with people and present and whatever. It's great technology and really good discussion. I'm excited for the Southern Baptist Convention if this is the next generation of worship theologians, because they're serious thinkers about it. So
they really are, which is awesome.
But it's been really hard to manage this past year, especially with family and moving and work, and so I am taking about a year hiatus, and we'll see what happens next year. Just PhD is a lot of work, man.
You know what? As it turns out, it is. I got through half. It was an artist diploma, so it's a PhD. They replace any of the writing just with more performances, more music to learn.
Yeah.
And that was a relatively short honeymoon. So,
it's difficult. And I kind of realized, it's not going to do anything for me from a career perspective. I was doing it just as a personal goal. I really don't want to be called doctor. It's not my ambition at all.
Would it be Cantor doctor or Dr. Cantor?
I don't know.
Yeah, that's complicated.
I don't think I'd tell anybody I was a doctor.
Probably for the best. Yeah,
it makes me uncomfortable.
Could you look at my elbow?
Yeah. So and I love the topic. I love studying the theology of worship. So,
good for you.
just sort of being put in a structured environment to do that, but. It's a lot of work.
Got a lot going on.
Yeah.
Well, it's been cool to hear the process. It's been cool to unpack sort of the church side of this. Not all of my guests are church musicians, so this is really unique, and I think it's special for other people to learn sort of the inside. There's a Monday through Saturday thing that people don't think about. They show up to church on Sundays and they hear that. So thanks for unpacking that, and we'll be, if we can, we'll get some dates on the screen for St. Charles singers and some of the other groups that you're working with, and we'll see if we can get the logo for Bach Academy and some of this stuff going and point people towards
Mozart Academy.
Mozart, so many academies, Germans. But anyway, thanks so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it, and take it from there.